you doing? It's nice that you're back. Now, we will visit the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And don't forget to support my channel. The land that is known today as Waverly Hill was purchased by Mayor Thomas H. Hayes in 1883, who used the land to put up a school for her daughters until the Board of Tuberculosis Hospital purchased the property. In the early 1900s, Jefferson County was severely stricken with an outbreak of tuberculosis. There were many tuberculosis cases in Louisville at that time because of all the wetlands along the Ohio River, which were perfect for the tuberculosis bacteria. To try to contain the disease, the 2-story wooden sanatorium was opened, which consisted of an administrative main building and 2 open-air pavilions, each housing 20 patients for the treatment of early cases. The Waverly Hills Hospital was then the most advanced TB hospital in the whole country. But the non-existence of the cure killed most of the present patients in the hospital. In 1910, when the hospital was established, this was a place where roughly 8,000 people died bloodily, as there would be no real cure for tuberculosis. Known as the White Plague until streptomycin was invented in 1943. With all that suffering, it's not surprising that rumors of creepy doppelgangers, ghostly children, demonic forces, and more in the haunted Waverly Hills Sanatorium is known worldwide. While spooky stories like these can truly be proven, there are plenty of people who will swear on their lives that they're true. Haunted sanatoriums are scary, but the spooky stories from Waverly Hills Sanatorium are downright terrifying. With no real way to cure tuberculosis, while the sanatorium was open, doctors did what they could do to treat the illness. As a last resort, doctors devised treatments such as inserting balloons into patients' lungs and filling them with the air to help them breathe. They also remove ribs and muscle tissue to alleviate pressure and create more room for damaged lungs. This resulted in painful and often fatal surgeries. Apparently, the results had to come out as a disaster. To dispose of the dead, the staff created a body chute. It was a tunnel that led from the hospital to nearby railroad. From there, a motorized rail and cable system lifted the cadavers into trains that would take them away. The patients in the hospital wouldn't know how many dead bodies are leaving from there. This place has a lot of stories to tell. The story of a little girl. Many witness her running up and down the 3rd floor. A little boy playing with a ball. A woman with a bleeding wrist who mourns for help. And many more. People who visited the hospital experienced slamming doors, the sound of footsteps in an empty room, and now here are some of the apparitions that you might encounter if you are brave enough to visit this place. Room 502. Another story that happens to attract many people, including ghost researchers in room 502. Legend says is that a 29-year-old nurse hung herself from the light fixture in room 502. She was unmarried and pregnant. According to stories, she took her life because she had an affair with the hospital owner and contracted tuberculosis. Other people said she was depressed with the whole scenario in the hospital. She couldn't take the death of so many patients, and thus she committed suicide. There was no hard evidence on why she committed this, but the rumors continued. Another nurse, who also worked in room 502, jumped off the roof to her death in 1932. Who might have done it and why are unknown. The kitchen. One legend stems from the experience of the Louisville Ghost Hunter Society. When they visited Waverly Hills, they found the kitchen in shambles. Windows, tables, and chairs were broken. The cafeteria was in a similar state of despair, finding nothing useful. The team tried to leave, but before they could go, they hear footsteps. Then they heard a door swung shut, and then noticed the smell of freshly baked bread. No one else was in the building, let alone using the ruined kitchen to bake bread. There seemed to be no explanation for what they had witnessed. Creepy shadows. True ghost tales featured a story by Joey, a visitor to Waverly Hills Sanatorium. After Joey and a few of his friends learned about the spooky history of the place, they had their own haunted experience. After touring the building, they headed to the rooftop to decompress. They began to see shadows moving around and started getting scared. Joey's friend Chris got so scared that he wanted to jump off the roof. The group went back inside. Still pursued by shadows, they started to hear doors slamming shut and see mysterious footsteps appear from nowhere in puddles of water. Chris began to cry, and the rest of the group barely held it together. But finally, they made it out of the sanatorium and into Joey's sister car. Were their minds playing tricks on them, or was it the miserable souls of dead tuberculosis patients? The Bleeding Woman. One of the saddest ghost stories is that an elderly woman who supposedly roams the hospital, moaning and bleeding from her chained hands and feet, though she cries for help. When outsiders approach her, she runs away, screaming in terror. The Ghost of Timmy. According to legends, Timmy was a 6 to 7-year-old child who died in the hospital from tuberculosis. He has not moved on yet, as he died with his whole life ahead of him. Visitors bring toys and balls for him to play with. Many of them have seen the ball moving on their own, but the skeptics say it might have been the case of wind or uneven floors. Doppelgangers. Doppelgangers are also known as double walkers, are a type of spirit that can mimic the appearance, voice, and mannerisms of anyone or anything it encounters. Tour guides at Waverly Hills have reported seeing doppelgangers of themselves and of others. In some cases, the doppelgangers were almost identical, except for black holes where the eyes should be. What do you think about our episode for today? Are you brave enough to see your doppelganger? Let me know in the comment section. And don't ever forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, be afraid of the dark. He is always watching.